Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of The First World War by me, Mike B. And today we're going to be talking about another American video. Again, I'll get to every nation I possibly can in the future, but for now I have the visual aids for American and to kind of kick the series off. A lot of American people are wondering about this stuff because they're just getting into it, while Europeans and other parts of the world are actually more aware of World War I, or the First World War, or the Great War, than a lot of Americans are. So I'm going to try and just teach about some American stuff first, and then I promise you we'll get to foreign stuff because that interests me just as much as, if not more than American stuff. But in this video, we're going to be talking about the two main rifles that were used by the American Expeditionary Force, AEF. First of all, you do have the Model 1903. So this is, of course, an adaptation of the Mauser rifle, we'll call it, or an impression. It's basically a Mauser action that, is American, quote unquote. I'll make a separate video on how that transpired in the whole patent lawsuit thing or whatever. But anyway, so this is going to be the 1903, right? This chambered in .30 caliber, model 1906, so 30-06, and it's a beast of a rifle. It's very short. It's the size of a Mauser carbine, like from World War II, but it packs the punch of the .30 caliber .06. And one way you can tell World War I era 1903 from a later, like post-1919, is the fact that it's probably going to be a walnut stock like this, if you can find it in original configuration. This is just by looking at the features and not really the serial numbers or anything. The bolt handle is going to go straight down. On the later ones, the bolt handle was swooped to the rear a little bit, so you could kind of hit it a little bit better and palm it. This one went straight down, and it was curved, which most bolt-action rifles at that time had a straight handle, minus the Lee Enfield, but a lot of European bolt guns had a straight handle. This one was curved, so they figured out if they swooped it back, after the First World War, that it'd work a little bit better. So it's hard to find them like this, and then you're going to have, obviously, the high hump, it's called. I know, funny, right? If you watch this on a Wednesday. The high hump handguard, where it actually is like what it is called. It's really high up, and it's got a pretty defined groove right there to look through the rear sight. And they found out that later on you don't really need this feature. It's just kind of an aesthetic thing that costs more money, and it just kind of gets in the way and it breaks off a lot if you drop it. So they ended up shaving this down and make this more smooth on the later ones. You'll notice that. And then, the front sight hoods. So people think that these were a post-war thing. They were definitely not. It's actually in the equipment list for your required equipment as an infantryman in 1916 and 17. So these were issued because of obvious reasons. Like, if you don't have a front sight hood on your weapon and you're in combat and you drop this thing and you lose your zero, you're effectively useless at anywhere past like 50 yards. So they issued these. The Marines also had one. The globe was a little bit bigger though. That's how you can distinguish a Marine Corps 1903 hood from an Army one. This one's Rock Island dated 1918, July 1918. So this thing is 101 years old right now because it's past July. But that's how you can tell, and then the sling's a reproduction, of course. But that's the one rifle that was used by the Americans. Now, the rate that this was used is estimated to be somewhere between 40% and 60% respectively. There's no really accurate numbers, but I usually just go with the 50-50 rule. 50% of American troops were going to be using the 1903, and they're mostly going to be earlier units, like I mentioned in the video about the next rifle we're going to be talking about. And these are more expensive to make. Only two manufacturers were making them, Springfield Armory and Rock Island Arsenal. This one's a Rock Island. And they were expensive to make. They were more time consuming. And they're just more intricate and stuff like that. So the next rifle was going to be used mainly by units and troops that were getting there in, early 1918, the spring of 1918 and forward. And most of the National Army units, like the draftees and stuff, the units that were being put together and formed from the National Army is what it was called. Troops were going to be using, more than likely, the M1917 rifle. Now, if you can check out my other video and check out the facts and myths about this that I did before to learn more about the facts and myths and all that stuff about this rifle. But so we'll just say 50% of AEF troops were using the 1917. This is also a really cool rifle. It was designed in England by I don't remember the people that made it. It was anyway. It's not an Enfield. It's not an Enfield at all. It's a totally radical design, and it's actually really it's a really nice design. And we retooled the barrels to fire 30-06 instead of 303. and we were equipped with this, and the fact that 3 manufacturers, Eddystone, Remington, and Winchester, were manufacturing these. Most were manufactured by Eddystone, second highest being Remington, and the third highest being Winchester, or actually the lowest being Winchester. I don't think this one ever made it overseas, to tell you the truth. It is a Winchester, very early. It's dated, December 1917, so it's a pretty early manufactured Winchester, which is cool. But yeah, these were issued in the millions. And they made so damn many of them so quick that production ceased in 1919. And they had so many of these things, they didn't know what to do with them. So they were selling them to other countries. One of the commenters actually brought up the good point, and they were selling them to Ireland. And they called them, in Ireland, they call them the Springfield because they were different, and they made sure they wouldn't fire 303, so they had to get stuff, interesting stuff. And these were sold to basically, and given to a bunch of allies, like the Free French, the Polish units that we had, Brazilian units, a bunch of different units that we had were issued these in World War II. And I think these were being used even through the Korean War by some units and some people, and possibly snipers. So very long, impressive service life, very nice rifle. Most of them you find are pretty used, but once in a while you get lucky. They're excellent shooters, and about half of our guys actually use this. Alvin York, the infamous Sergeant York, actually used a model 1917 rifle. He didn't use a 1903 like the original movie. But it's pretty well known that he used this because, yeah, he fired, you can hold 7 rounds in this thing when it's fully loaded. You got 6 in the magazine and 1 in the tube. And I think some people are speculating that that's kind of what helped him be able to hold that position so well, besides his 1911 once he ran out of ammo for this. But yeah, so very, very nice weapon. Hope you learned something on this video, guys, and the visual aids helped out quite a bit with the 2 rifles that were used by the American Expeditionary Force. So this is basically the 2 main firearms. They really didn't experiment with other things. You had the Pedersen device, which never really was fielded, but it was still on a 1903 platform. So these are basically it. And we used the 1903 and this rifle through World War II, which is very interesting. So yeah, anyway, hope you enjoyed this video. It helps to kind of explain stupid small details like this in a format where I can do, a 10-minute video on something like this and not have to take a half hour and put a bunch of infographics in it. It's just easier to talk about it this way. I like visual aids, that's how I learned, so I hope that helped out with you. I will be getting to other countries. I will be getting to Germany, France, Belgium, England, or the Commonwealth in general, Canada, the Ottoman Empire, you name it, the Italians, the Austro-Hungarians, the Romanians, Bulgarians, Russians, as many people as we can get to, as many topics as we can cover. Again, this series will also be endless, and I've had a lot of requests for it. So we got this along with the Vietnam series currently. I'm hoping to start a World War II series soon, which would be really interesting. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you got any questions, I'll try to answer. And other than that, please consider supporting the channel. It really helps to get visual aids and stuff, and actually probably have a couple range days with these to show you what they're actually like, and maybe go out in full garb. And it really helps support the cost of making these videos, which is low unless I want to get more visual aids, which is what I want to do and I want to show you. And get more items to talk about and kind of relate them to the human experience in the First World War. So that's about all I've got. Consider supporting me. That'd be great. Links are in the description for that. I really appreciate you watching, guys. Again, comment with what questions you have or what you thought of the video. If you learned something, cool. So I'm doing this for, and I love teaching people about this. Thanks for watching, everybody, and we'll see you on the next episode of the First World War.